Once upon a time, a totally not ripped off idea for a creature capturing survival game was announced and enamored me for months on end. Once it was released, the children screamed in joy and lamb ball mutton was available for everyone. But there was another contender for my heart and soul, for the year of 2024 decided to let me feast on many of its splendor, and that delicious fruit from the vine was called Enshrouded. Yeah, so this game came out at like the same time as Palworld did, but totally fell below my radar since Grand Blue Fantasy, Persona 3 Reload, and Palworld were all bundled together because indie developers just don't give no fucks about releasing schedules. Like all four of these studios just kind of went, fuck it, and all of them had majorly large player bases to back up the fact that they all released within a couple of weeks of each other. But Enshrouded really just was the lowest on the limbo line because my older brother had to be the one to get me into it and be like, that is the shit, and I had no idea what it was. It may be an early access, but the game itself has so much to offer and has so much promise that I'm chomping at the bit for more content to be made already. This is a very specific style of survival game, and if you don't know what style it is I'm talking about, it's a voxel based environment survival game. And if you're confused on a voxel, let me be brief about this. Voxels are similar to pixels, but they are in the third dimension, meaning the models and the world in the game are made of tiny cubes instead of tiny squares, and that changes how you program the interaction in the game. So where normal games are made of polygons, which just means that all the models of the games are basically hollow puppets made of triangles, voxels have volume. So it's more like a one-to-one simulation of whatever the voxels are made of. So if you dig in the ground, for instance, in Enshrouded, you're not seeing an animation of ground being dug up and then replaced with a texture of what the hole in the ground would look like. You're seeing the character filling up actual game particles made of voxels and then seeing a hole be formed based on a realistic way that the ground would look from the missing dirt. And being that the game is made of voxels, you can also dig or climb as far as the invisible walls of the game, with all the physics being much closer to real life since they're made of a digitally solid world. Do you know what else is a digitally solid entity though? The subscribe button down below. Go ahead and dig a chunk out of it if you want to watch more videos from me. But the way they use the voxel environment is way more impressive than one might realize. Look at this clip.
So now what happens if I shoot this? Oh, wow.
Did you see what happened? Not only did the explosion make a crater in the ground, which is so fucking cool, but they are also using the environment to reward you for being curious inside the game. That is exactly how this sort of game should be. You should be rewarded for being curious. It adds to an adventure and makes you feel like you are actually given a sense of satisfaction by exploring. Here's another Asmongold clip, just because he does such a good job being a curious person.
Anything good in here? Is this map procedurally... Ooh, wait, can I? Oh, wow. Oh,
and that is so dope, that you can see that every time something itches your brain and immediately scratches that curiosity, you get the real response to your actions with that satisfaction that you were able to itch that scratch. To show another way to use this moldable environment, here's one more clip from Asmon, because he really does kind of understand what kind of game this is.
So what happens if I want to terraform like right here? Like let's say like I don't like the fact that I have to go all the way around. Can I literally just dig? No way, right? I can actually just dig my way up. Oh shit! We're breaking through! Oh wow! The light, I see the light? Yeah, true.
In your own path, having the option there whether it's a good idea or not, but giving you the choice is what play cycles in survival games have a lot of charm for them, and it's what's making Enshrouded so interesting and unique since a lot of survival games are not voxel based. But Enshrouded not only does it well, but it gives you instant gratification for making the choices within the game. The environment shows, what's that music? Oh god! God, fine, I'll move on. Jeez, all right. I think besides the environment, a much more greater part of the experience with Enshrouded is how they handled the play loop. They have pretty basic survival mechanics that all survival games really work within the confines of repairing, crafting, shelter building, food meters, stamina bars. Though I will say that the shelter building mechanics are so straightforward and nice to deal with. None of the jank, complicated structure nonsense from Valheim. No matter how much I love Valheim, the building mechanics are the worst part of that game. But what was really an awesome way to look at the game was the RPG level interactions you can have in this game. There's a variety of enemies, they all have their own active and passive behaviors, along with a plethora of attack patterns. The devs even thought through the difference between typical enemies you find at night and what enemies you find during the day in between campsites and ruins. On top of the interesting enemies, you also get a sense of real story when you find a survivor and revive them so you can find further uses and dedicated NPCs for your encampment. I do like that I can repair and build things myself, but the fact that I can find a ruin and then get a blacksmith that can further things I can make and create is super cool and definitely makes the world feel way less empty, along with giving more curiosity and mystery to the story itself, since you find people in the same kind of pods you were in when you entered the world. Another really interesting aspect of this game is the Enshrouded areas. Get it? It's the name of the game and it's the thing in the game. I promise I can talk to women. Anyways, you enter an Enshrouded area. You basically have a timer set before you start to take damage from the Enshrouded areas, almost like an oxygen bar when you're underwater. The only way to avoid this is to find the shroud root in the fog and defeat it to lift that Enshrouded area specifically. Shroud root, huh? Nothing better to call it, huh? No, I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying they ran out of names pretty quickly considering its early development. There's also a several variety of weapons and combat metas that you can choose from in the game, which is always a good time in an RPG. For me personally, I like going with magic in one hand and sword in the other. Gotta go through that magic swordsman build, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, though you can go with a full magic build, an archer build, you can get your choice of sword, axes, and clubs. You can even go more utilitarian on this game and just carry a bunch of hand bombs and become a human United States drone and carpet bomb enemies out of existence. Something I will note that some might not find as fun is the fact that the map is non-procedural. Now, personally, considering how big the map is and the kind of RPGs I like, I don't personally have an issue with this. I know some might prefer getting a different seed world every time they restart, but again, this is a voxel environment. The game would have to take so much longer to get into early access if they made the game voxel in procedural based, because the amount of processing it would take for the game to load something random and new every time you started a new seed. The other advantage is it being the same map for everyone. If you have friends who are playing the game, then you can find a dungeon with some dope ass loot, and then you can share that location with them and they can share in your splendor, even if you're not playing on the same server. I will say this game is very good, but does it have room to grow? Absolutely. The game is in early access. The devs just wanted to get enough funds to be able to produce more content at a faster speed and be able to show the potential of the game, adding monsters, adding more to the map and the story, rebalancing melee builds versus magic builds. There's a plenty to add and adjust within the game. Some other minor complaints is stuff that can easily be added and fixed as well, such as the fact that there is no PvP system at all, which is pretty sad since you can co-op the game, along with the fact that inside the ability system you have to get double jump when it's such a pivotal part of the game to have. So I do wish they had built it into the character from the very beginning, since there is a lot of verticality inside the map. I would say the very last complaint that will be a little divisive here is the fact that your save data is dedicated to the world and not your character. So do be advised, if you have a world for playing with your friends, then only go into that world when you're playing with your friends. Because if you progress too far without your homies, then they will miss all the content and you will have to go through and start a whole new world because they won't get to do it now because you're sharing the same world. You're not sharing character progression. But for the current price and the fact that you get tens to hundreds of hours worth of content out of the game in its current state, you will absolutely have a blast with this game. I absolutely recommend it if you're an RPG fan or if you're just needing a new game to play with your friends. It is a fantastic fuck around and find out kind of experience, and I think it is wonderful. I really appreciate you guys watching the video to this point. If you did, just go ahead and click on another video right over here and watch that shit, and I'll see you next time.